There was a middle-class guy who was never a good student. He could not get good marks in his school. He could not speak properly since childhood. What can you think of his future? You might think he will never have a bright future, or it is impossible for him to be successful. But if he works hard, stays consistent, and keeps chasing his dreams, he can become President of the United States as well. Yes, you heard it right. We are talking about Joe Biden, the current President of the United States. Joe Biden is a prime example of someone who works hard with honesty and consistency. One day he will succeed. In this video, we will tell you about the life of Joe Biden from his early life to becoming the president. Early life. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania on November 20th, 1942. He was the first of 4 children of Catherine Eugenia Finnegan Biden and Joseph Robinette Biden Sr. The Biden family relocated to Claymont, Delaware, in 1953. Born and raised in Scranton, Pennsylvania and Newcastle County, Delaware, Biden graduated from the University of Delaware in 1965 with a bachelor's degree and Syracuse University in New York with a law degree. He got hitched to Nelia Hunter during this period, 1966, and the two went on to have 3 kids. Biden returned to Delaware to practice law after earning his law degree, but he soon switched to politics, serving on the Newcastle County Council from 1970 to 1972. At age 29, he was elected to the U.S. Senate, making him the 5th youngest senator in history. A month or so later, his 2 kids suffered critical injuries, and a vehicle accident claimed the lives of his wife and infant daughter. Biden was convinced to join the Senate in 1973 despite having considered quitting politics. He went on to win re-election 6 times, becoming Delaware's longest-serving senator. In order to be with his family, Biden started traveling daily from Wilmington to Washington, first by automobile and then by train. He was sworn into the U.S. Senate while his sons were in the hospital. Throughout his tenure in the Senate, he would continue to do so. In 1977, Biden married Jill Jacobs, and the arrival of Ashley Blazer Biden in 1980 completed their family. Jill, a lifetime educator, returned to the classroom as an English professor at a community college in Virginia after receiving her Ph.D. in education. Beau Biden, the eldest son of Joe Biden and the Attorney General of Delaware, died in 2015 after fighting brain cancer with the same moral fiber, bravery, and fortitude he displayed every day of his life. Beau's battle with cancer serves as an inspiration for President Biden's life's work, putting an end to cancer as we know it. Leader of Senate. President Biden established himself as a leader in addressing some of our country's most significant domestic and international concerns throughout his 36 years as a senator from Delaware. Biden is well known for his work on the writing and leadership of the Violence Against Women Act, the landmark piece of legislation that toughens penalties for violence against women, develops unheard-of resources for assault survivors, and shifts the national conversation on domestic and sexual assault. Biden served as chairman or ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee for 16 years. Biden was a key player in establishing U.S. foreign policy during his 12 years as chairman or ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He played a leading role in developing policies and laws pertaining to terrorism, WMDs, post-Cold War Europe, the Middle East, Southwest Asia, and the abolition of apartheid. In addition to serving as a senator for the United States, Biden also served as an adjunct professor, 1991-2008, at the Widener University School of Law in Wilmington, Delaware. Presidential runs and vice presidency. When it was discovered that portions of his campaign stump speech had been lifted verbatim from British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock without proper attribution, Biden withdrew from consideration for the Democratic presidential nomination in 1988. He dropped out of the 2008 presidential run after finishing 5th in the Iowa Democratic caucuses in January of that year. His candidacy never gathered traction. Biden became a front-runner to be Obama's vice presidential running partner when Barack Obama racked up enough delegates to win the Democratic presidential nomination. The Democratic Party officially nominated Obama and Biden on August 27th, after Obama made his choice of Biden as its vice presidential contender official on August 23rd. On November 4th, the Obama-Biden team defeated John McCain and Sarah Palin, who was running as his running mate. Biden also handily re-won his position in the U.S. Senate. Prior to taking the oath of office as vice president on January 20, 2009, he abruptly resigned from his position in the Senate. Obama and Biden won a second term in office in November 2012, defeating the Republican ticket of Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. As vice president, Biden was actively involved in the administration, supporting Obama's policies and acting as an important advisor to him. In addition, he was given important tasks. He was instrumental in shaping American policy in Iraq and assisted in preventing a number of fiscal issues. The story of Biden's eldest son Beau's death from brain cancer in 2015 is detailed in his 2017 book, Promise Me, Dad, A Year of Hope, Hardship, and Purpose. A few months later, Biden declared that he would not run for president in 2016, citing the family's ongoing grief. At the time, Biden had excellent favorability ratings, in part because of his candor and approachable demeanor. He supported Hillary Clinton instead, who ultimately lost the election to Donald Trump. Obama's surprise presentation of the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Biden on January 12, 2017, just days before they left office, made clear how close the two were. Obama referred to Biden as my brother, as he gave the honor, which is not often given. Later on in the year, Vice President Biden and his wife founded the Biden Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to a number of causes. The presidential election of 2020, Biden stayed active in politics and was a vehement opponent of President Trump. When many women accused Biden of making inappropriate physical contact, particularly embracing and kissing, in 2019, Biden himself came under fire. Despite the fact that his reply, "I'm sorry I didn't understand more. I'm not sorry for anything that I have ever done. I've never been disrespectful intentionally to a man or a woman," he declared, maintaining his popularity. In order to join the crowded Democratic field, Biden declared his candidacy in April 2019, amid mounting rumors that he might run for president in 2020. When compared to other candidates like Bernie Sanders, Biden's platform was seen as moderate. He quickly established himself as the frontrunner. However, Biden's support decreased after a subpar performance in the party's first debate in June 2019. Sanders was set to be the party's nominee after the first three primary battles in early 2020, but concerns about Sanders' general election viability inspired moderate voters, and in South Carolina in late February, Biden triumphed handily. Numerous candidates subsequently dropped out, and by early March it had become a two-man race between Biden and Sanders. As Biden registered more wins, he soon took a commanding lead in delegates. After the rapid spread of the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States stalled the campaigns, Sanders dropped out in April, and Biden became the presumptive Democratic nominee. In the months that followed, Biden drafted a platform with some measures that progressives found appealing. Specifically, he advocated expanding federal health insurance programs like the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, which had been passed during President Obama's administration, as well as ambitious climate change legislation, affordable child care, and government assistance to low-income neighborhoods. In national polls at the time, Biden began to pull away from Trump, in part as a result of the president's handling of the COVID-19 outbreak, which had sparked a comparable economic depression to the Great Depression. In the following months, Biden drafted a plan that contained some measures that progressives found appealing. In particular, he advocated expanding federal health insurance programs like the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, which had been passed during President Obama's administration, as well as government assistance for low-income neighborhoods, ambitious climate change legislation, affordable child care, and other similar issues. The president's response to the COVID-19 epidemic, which had led to an economic depression comparable to the Great Depression, had come under fire. At this time, Biden began to pull ahead of Trump in national surveys by a large margin. Following the election, Trump and a number of other Republican leaders disputed the results, citing voter fraud. Despite the fact that numerous lawsuits were brought, the vast majority of them were dismissed since no proof was shown to back up the claims. Biden and Harris started the transition to the new administration at this time by establishing an agenda and choosing staff. The election results were recognized by all states by the beginning of December, and the process then moved to Congress for final certification. Republican congressional lawmakers, most notably Senators Josh Hawley, Missouri, and Ted Cruz, Texas, announced that they will challenge the electors of various states amid Trump's repeated calls for Republicans to annul the election. On January 6, 2021, as the proceedings got underway, a sizable group of Trump supporters made their way from a rally near the White House to the U.S. Capitol. There, Trump had repeated bogus accusations of Democratic voter fraud and urged his supporters to fight like hell. 5 individuals, including one Capitol police officer, died as a result of the rioters' overpowering presence when they assaulted the complex and plundered and trashed its interior. Biden and Harris were declared the winners after several hours of trying to secure the building. Biden took the oath of office as president 2 weeks later, in front of a sizable security presence. Presidency. The 2020 election in the United States witnessed a historically large voter turnout, thanks in part to modifications in voting procedures implemented in many states to ensure safe voting during the COVID-19 pandemic. Democrats saw a significant increase in voter participation compared to previous elections, resulting in victories not only in the presidential race, but also in maintaining control of the House of Representatives and gaining control of the Senate, albeit by a slim margin. This convergence of power led many Democrats, particularly progressives, to believe that they had a unique opportunity to pass transformative legislation aimed at creating a more democratic, equitable, and just society. In the early weeks of his presidency, Joe Biden signed numerous executive orders, actions, and memoranda, many of which overturned policies implemented by the Trump administration, particularly in areas such as immigration, health care, and the environment. Notably, on his first day in office, Biden re-entered the United States into the Paris Agreement on climate change and canceled the country's withdrawal from the World Health Organization. In March 2021, the Biden administration utilized budget reconciliation, a process that bypasses filibustering in the Senate, to secure the passage of the American Rescue Plan, a $1.9 trillion pandemic relief bill, without Republican support. This legislation included various measures such as one-time payments for lower and middle-income Americans, extended unemployment benefits, an expanded child tax credit, financial aid to state and local governments, and funding for COVID-19 testing, tracing, and vaccine distribution. Biden also advocated for significant voting rights and electoral reform through 3 major pieces of legislation: the For the People Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and the Freedom to Vote Act. While the House of Representatives passed these bills, they were subsequently blocked in the Senate by Republican filibusters. The failure of these electoral reform measures, which Democrats considered crucial for safeguarding American democracy, prompted calls from progressive and moderate Democrats to eliminate the filibuster, a procedural hurdle in the Senate that can be ended with a simple majority vote. In August, the Senate passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, a scaled-back version of Biden's original infrastructure plan. This $550 billion bill faced significant debates and delays in the House, as different factions within the Democratic Party held conflicting views on its provisions. Eventually, with the recognition of potential losses in the 2022 election, Biden and Democratic House leaders intensified their efforts to reconcile differences, leading to the passage of the infrastructure bill. On December 13, 2022, Biden signed the Respect for Marriage Act, which formally repealed the Federal Defense of Marriage Act, thereby recognizing same-sex marriages performed in states that had previously been unrecognized. In terms of foreign policy, Biden aimed to repair relationships with U.S. allies, collaborate on global climate change efforts, and restore the country's position as a global leader. He also fulfilled a campaign promise to withdraw all remaining U.S. troops from Afghanistan, ending nearly 2 decades of military involvement in the country. However, the withdrawal faced criticism as the Taliban quickly gained control, leading to the collapse of the Afghan government and chaotic scenes at Kabul's airport as people sought to evacuate the country. Throughout Biden's presidency, he encountered both successes and challenges in his legislative agenda, international relations, and military decisions. The outcomes of the 2022 midterm elections would have a significant impact on the future trajectory of his administration's policies.